everybody, and welcome back to Something Dark. We're here again for our 9th episode, and I'm happy to be back recording this evening for all of you. As mentioned in last week's episode, I am going to be working off of some listener requests, so tonight's case is actually another listener request. So to the person that requested this, thank you for giving me some ideas for cases to cover. And for anyone listening, if you have a case that you would like me to cover, the best way to get in touch is through Instagram, but I'll talk about more of that at the end of the show, and I'll leave my Instagram handle in the show notes. And that brings us to tonight's case. On April 22nd, 2020, a first-class Army officer went missing from Fortwood military base in Texas. Her body was later discovered dismembered and burned. Outrage and confusion fueled her family to look for answers and justice. How could a soldier go missing from a military base? The case captured the attention of celebrities, lawmakers, and other public figures, and has drawn particular outrage from women in the military and Latinos. The family raised allegations that before she was killed, she had been sexually harassed, and activists expressed their anger at the lack of answers and action from the military, and called for systematic changes in how the military handles reports of sexual harassment and assault. Her case inspired protests and caught the attention of the president, and led the army to discipline more than a dozen officials. Tonight we're going to be discussing the case of Vanessa Guillén. Vanessa Guillén was born on the 30th of September 1999 and raised in Houston with 5 siblings. Her mother, Gloria Guillén, said she had an interest in the military since childhood, when she would play with her brother's toy pistol. She was known for being super friendly and a high-energy young woman. She graduated high school in 2018 in the top 15% of her class. Around that time, she knew she wanted to be in the army, and that June, after graduation, she enlisted, despite her mother's reservations. At the time of her disappearance, she was 20 years old, a private first-class army soldier, and was working as a small arms and artillery repairer. She was living and working off the Fortwood military base in Texas, the largest base in the entire USA. At first, everything was great. Her parents were very proud of her and she was enjoying her job. But 3 weeks before her disappearance, her mom noticed she was acting differently. It seemed like something was wrong, like Vanessa was upset. Vanessa and her mom were really close, and her mom said that she had become withdrawn. She wasn't sleeping and she was acting off. She knew Vanessa was in some sort of trouble. Eventually, her mom got it out of her that Vanessa was being sexually harassed by one of the sergeants at the base. But Vanessa refused to give the name. She knew her mom would report it, and she was scared of the repercussions. Vanessa told her mom that she knew of other women in similar situations who had reported it, and the army didn't do anything to help protect them, or, in a lot of cases, the women weren't even believed. Vanessa told her mom that there was a sergeant on the base that was stalking her, watching her while she was working out. She said it made her feel super uncomfortable, and it was taking a toll on her mentally. Vanessa's mom told her many times that they needed to report it, but Vanessa assured her mother that she would take care of it, and she never gave the name of the sergeant that was stalking her. Vanessa's family claimed that right before she went missing, she was about to make a report. Vanessa was really close with her sister Mira and had spoken to her the night before she went missing. They spoke about Vanessa buying a new car. Everything seemed okay, nothing out of the ordinary. Then, the next day, Vanessa went missing. On the day of her disappearance, Vanessa was last seen around noon on April 22nd in the parking lot of her squadron's headquarters at Fort Hood. Vanessa wasn't even supposed to be in work on that day. She had been called in by someone. She was working in the arms room, and while working, witnesses say she was called into another arms room on base to confirm some serial numbers on some equipment. This room was being managed by Specialist Aaron Robinson. Strangely, Vanessa's car keys, identification card, bank card, and barracks key were found inside the armory. When investigators asked Aaron about Vanessa visiting the room that day, he confirmed that she came to the arms room to collect some paperwork and some serial numbers for a gun that needed to be worked on. He claimed that as she left the room, He was under the impression that she was heading to the motor pool. The people working at the motor pool said they were expecting Vanessa, but she never showed up. After investigators searched her phone, they found that the last person she texted was Specialist Robinson. Aaron claimed that he had texted her to let her know that he was in the arms room, and it became clear to investigators that Aaron was the last person to have seen Vanessa. Aaron claims that on the 22nd, he left the base at night and went to his house, which was off the base. It is unclear whether he was living with this person full-time, but he had a girlfriend there named Cecily Aguilar. Aaron insisted he was at his house all night with Cecily, and he returned to work at 6:30 a.m. About a month after Vanessa went missing, the Army interviewed witnesses, and multiple witnesses said that on the day Vanessa went missing, they saw Specialist Robinson coming out of the arms room, pulling a large, tough box with wheels that appeared very heavy in weight. Witnesses say they saw him struggling to put the tough box in his car before driving off base. The day after interviewing those witnesses, police believed Aaron was likely involved in Vanessa's disappearance. To gather more information, they used a universal forensic extraction device to extract all information from his phone. They were able to pull GPS location history from the phone, as well as photos and messages. Looking at the information they recovered from Aaron's phone, they could see that Aaron called his girlfriend Cecily several times on the night Vanessa disappeared, and into the early hours of the next morning, which seemed strange to police as he had stated that he was with her all night. Police questioned Cecily and asked about these calls and why Aaron called her multiple times if they were together at home all night. She played it off, saying that she lost her phone a few times and Aaron was just calling her to help her find it. This story didn't sit well with police, as the duration of these calls were several minutes long. Under the pressure from police questioning, Cecily changed her story. She said that she was actually taking a long drive that night to clear her head. She said that Aaron came with her, and they went to an area called Belton in Texas to do some stargazing. After this, they went home. Police checked Aaron's GPS records on his phone, and it confirmed that he was in this area at around 2:30 a.m. on the 23rd, and at this time he was on or around a bridge. They then tracked his phone going north along the Leon River for 2 hours. Cecily's phone showed the same trail. Because of this, a search was carried out at Leon River on June 21st by Texas Rangers, detectives, and cadaver dogs. The search revealed the remains of a burnt plastic container with disturbed soil underneath the burn site. The scent of decomposition was also evident at the scene. At this point, however, no remains were found. 6 days later, on June 30th, Army investigators were called when contractors discovered partial human remains along the Leon River in Belton. They were working on a fence near Leon River when they made the discovery. One of the workers, named Tim, said there appeared to be bits of lime mixed with dirt and soil scattered across the remains. The same day, on June 30th, the Army Criminal Investigation Division Command, CID, confirmed that human remains had been found in an area near the Leon River, where a search had been conducted for Vanessa on June 22nd. The Army CID issued the following statement. Due to extensive investigation work conducted by special agents from the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command, agents have returned to an area of interest close to the Leon River for more investigative work in the search for Vanessa Guillén. After receiving additional information, agents have discovered what has been described as partial human remains after analysis from a forensic anthropologist. Army CID agents are currently on scene with the Texas Rangers, the FBI, and Bell County Sheriff's Department. No confirmation as to the identity of the remains has been made at this point, and we ask for the media and the public's understanding that the identification process can take time. Due to the ongoing criminal investigation, no further information will be released at this time. At this point, it was obvious both Cecily and Aaron were involved. Police interviewed Cecily again on June 30th. She cracked and admitted to everything. This is her breakdown of events. On April 22nd, Aaron contacted her and told her what he had done. He had bludgeoned a female colleague to death on the Fortwood base. After she died, he put her body in a tough box and took her off the base and drove her to Leon River. He then picked up Cecily from her job at the petrol station, and the two of them drove back out to Leon River. Cecily said that when they arrived, the tough box was there waiting for them. Aaron walked Cecily over to the woods, opened the box, and Cecily saw a dead woman inside. Cecily told investigators that she recognized the deceased as Vanessa, whom she helped Aaron mutilate and dispose of. Aaron told Cecily that he needed help to get rid of Vanessa's body, and Cecily agreed. This confused a lot of people, as Aaron and Cecily had only been dating for 2 months. Cecily told police in order to get rid of Vanessa's body, they dismembered her with a hatch or axe and a machete-type knife, and then they burned her. Eventually they had to stop because it wasn't working, and the fire was getting bigger and bigger, and they were scared it would attract attention. Instead, they dug 3 holes and buried Vanessa. 2 days after this, Cecily posted to her Instagram a selfie with a caption reading, "The most dangerous woman of all is the one who refuses to rely on you to save her because she was never a damsel in distress." She continued to post more selfies to Instagram in the days after. One selfie captioned, "People who fight fire with fire end up with ashes of their own integrity." Cecily also told police a few days after they had buried Vanessa, she returned back to Leon River with Aaron, and they brought some concrete that she had gotten off of Facebook Marketplace. They dug up Vanessa's remains and attempted to burn them a second time. Then they took what was left of those remains and put them back into the 3 holes and poured concrete on top. The 2 of them then returned home, burned their clothes, and cleaned up. Tim Miller, the director of Texas EquiSearch, stated that this was one of the most sophisticated burial sites that he had ever seen. Aaron was considered a suspect, and he was held in his room at Fort Hood and was not allowed to leave as investigation was underway. He had no idea that Cecily was talking to police. Police were able to get Cecily to call Aaron while they listened. Cecily went through everything they did, and Aaron agreed with everything she said. He didn't deny any of it. They also found texts between Aaron and Cecily. Aaron had sent her news articles about remains being found, and during a phone call between them, Aaron was caught saying, "Baby, they found the pieces." Even though Aaron was supposed to be confined to his room on the base at this time, he somehow managed to leave. Police managed to track him down a few days later on July 2nd, and when police approached him, he discharged a firearm and shot himself on the spot. Cecily was arrested by Texas Rangers and held at the Bell County Jail. On July 2nd, Bell County officials said that she would be transferred to federal custody due to being charged with 1 count of conspiracy to tamper with evidence by the United States Attorney's Office, Western District of Texas. Assistant United States Attorney Mark Fraser and Greg Gloff are prosecuting the case on behalf of the United States government. The case was investigated under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command, the FBI, Bell County Sheriff's Office, Guillén Police Department, Belton Police Department, Texas Parks and Wildlife, the United States Marshal Service, and the Texas Rangers in support. Multiple Fort Hood units, including the 3CR, began searching within 2 weeks of her disappearance. In early June, Vanessa's mother told reporters that she did not trust the U.S. Army's handling of the case, and her attorney, Natalie Kawam, said she believed the family was being kept in the dark because few details had been released regarding Vanessa's disappearance. On June 13, 2020, hundreds of people assembled at the gates of Fort Hood to protest what organizers felt was a lack of information on the case. CID reported that they had found no evidence that Vanessa was being assaulted, but investigators believe foul play was involved in her disappearance. On June 17th, the League of United Latin American Citizens added $25,000 reward to the existing $25,000 announced by the U.S. Army. Army officials tried to dispel social media rumors linking Vanessa's disappearance to another soldier who went missing in August 2019. Investigators said they had no credible information connecting Private Gregory Weddle Morales' case to Vanessa's. Sadly, his remains were found in a field several miles from Fort Hood, his mother told ABC 13. His family is now fighting for a military funeral after the US Army listed his disappearance as desertion. He was not AWOL or a deserter, he was murdered, Weddle Morales' mother, Kim Weddle, wrote on a Facebook post. He deserves all honors and respect due to a soldier. Foul play is suspected in Morales' death. On June 18th, the search intensified as allegations of sexual harassment surfaced from Vanessa's family. Vanessa's family and their attorney said that prior to her disappearance, she confided to her mother and friends about being sexually harassed on the military base. Attorney Natalie Kawam said that she discovered at least 2 alleged incidents of sexual harassment. A superior walking in on Vanessa showering, and another verbally assaulting Vanessa with vulgar remarks in Spanish. On June 22nd, a Fort Hood deputy commander spoke for the first time about Vanessa's disappearance. We want to bring Vanessa home as efficiently and rapidly as possible. And towards that end, I'm asking for your assistance. We need to bring Vanessa back to her army family and back to her family, and we won't stop this effort until we're successful. On June 23rd, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, in whose district the Guillén family resides, met with Fort Hood officials to discuss the ongoing search for Vanessa. The authority said that more than 300 interviews and over 10,000 hours were spent investigating Vanessa's disappearance. On June 27th, after more than 2 months of searching, the US Army compiled a list of FAQs about Vanessa's case. It also posted a missing persons announcement on their website in an attempt to spread awareness. As we know, on June 30th, Vanessa's remains were discovered. A month later, on July 30th, during a meeting between Vanessa's family and President Trump at the White House, the president told them that they have his support and that he will help them personally with any funeral expenses. If you need any help with the funeral financially, I will help, the president told the family in the Oval Office. Before the meeting, family members expressed their purpose on taking Vanessa's story to the top. The president is talking to me. I'm not nervous to speak to him because this has to stop. I don't want to hear another woman or man was found dead at Fort Hood. I don't want to hear about another man or woman that was sexually assaulted, abused, or raped, said Lupe Guillén, Vanessa's sister. Ahead of the meeting with the president, several dozen demonstrators joined the family at a rally, calling for Fort Hood officials to be held accountable for Vanessa's death and for better investigations of harassment in the military. Fort Hood is supposed to be held accountable. Leadership has to be held accountable, said Lupe, while speaking to a crowd outside the US Capitol. Supporters marched from the rally at the US Capitol to the White House. Vanessa's family proposed the hashtag #IamVanessaGuillén bill, which would let service members file sexual harassment claims to a third party rather than their chain of command. The bill comes after hundreds of Fort Hood service members have come forward with their own experiences on the base. On August 10th, Vanessa's family announced a memorial service would be held on August 14th at the high school she attended in Houston. A private funeral took place for Vanessa on Saturday, August 15th, and she was laid to rest at Forest Park Lawndale Funeral Home in southeast Houston. To summarize the case, I am now going to go through the established timeline of events. April 22nd. Vanessa is supposed to be off work for the day, but she ends up getting called into work by someone. According to law enforcement, Vanessa is murdered with a hammer inside the armory by the suspect, who then uses a trunk to remove her body from Fort Hood and gets help from a second suspect in dismembering the remains before burying them alongside the Leon River. April 23rd. CID was notified by a commissioned officer in the 3CR Provost Marshal that Vanessa was reported missing. April 24th. CID issues a missing soldier letter for Vanessa. Fort Hood Military Police issue a be on the lookout advisory to surrounding law enforcement agencies. Military personnel along with civilian and military police begin a search. April 26th. According to law enforcement tracking of cell phone data, Aaron and Cecily return to the Leon River site and further mutilate and break down Vanessa's remains. April 28th. CID interviews Aaron for the first time. April 30th. Secretary of the Army Ryan D. McCarthy makes the following statement in a COVID-19 press briefing. I'd like to start out this morning by talking about a missing soldier, Private First Class Vanessa Guillén, in hopes of increasing the public's awareness and assistance in finding her. Private First Class Guillén went missing on the 22nd from Fort Hood, Texas. In concert with local law enforcement efforts, the Army will continue aggressively searching for her. Our hearts go out to her family and we will not stop looking for her until we find her. May 18th. 2 witnesses are interviewed who observed Aaron struggling with a tough box outside of the armory. May 19th. Aaron consents to a search of his cell phone by law enforcement using a universal forensic extraction device. June 19th. Cecily is interviewed for the first time. June 21st. Cell phone data from both Aaron and Cecily lead law enforcement officials to an area near the Leon River. Law enforcement officials locate the burned lid of a Pelican transport case, but fail to find a body. June 30th. At about 1 p.m., contractors working on a fence near the Leon River discover partial human remains that would later be confirmed to be that of Vanessa, and notify law enforcement. CID and partner agencies discover human remains. At about 8:30 p.m., Cecily was interviewed again and told law enforcement officials about the killing. Aaron fled Fort Hood. July 1st. In the early hours, shortly after midnight, Aaron killed himself when approached by law enforcement in Guillén, Texas. July 2nd. FBI formally submits a criminal complaint for Cecily. Fort Hood and CID hold a press briefing. July 5th. Remains are confirmed to be Vanessa Guillén. July 10th. U.S. Secretary of the Army Ryan D. McCarthy announced that he would order a full independent review of the case. July 30th. Vanessa Guillén's family meet with President Donald Trump to discuss with him about Vanessa Guillén's murder and to convince the family about the confidence of the full independent review of the case. December 8th. Following the independent review, McCarthy announced in a Pentagon press briefing that 14 senior officials from the corps to squad level were disciplined for leadership failures. The investigation found that there was a permissive environment for sexual assault and sexual harassment at Fort Hood. Among those disciplined by McCarthy were Major General Scott L. Eflant, Colonel Ralph Overland, and Command Sergeant Major Bradley Knapp. The Army suspended Major General Jeffrey Broadwater and Commander Sergeant Major Thomas C. Kenny, pending the outcome of a new investigation into the 1st Cavalry Division's command climate and program for preventing and responding to sexual harassment and assault. Disciplinary measures were also taken against soldiers and leaders assigned below the brigade level, but as a matter of policy, the Army does not release the names of the battalion level and lower commanders and leaders who received administrative action. During the December 8th Pentagon press conference, McCarthy said that Vanessa's murder shocked our conscience and brought attention to deeper problems at Fort Hood and across the Army more widely. He said it forced us to take a critical look at our systems, our policies, and ourselves. A mural in honor of Vanessa Guillén was created in her hometown of Houston by a local artist. The mural portrays her with the flags of both the United States and Mexico, the latter due to her Mexican-American ethnicity. Members of Congress will file the I Am Vanessa Guillén Act again this year. The legislation seeks to make sexual harassment a crime within the Uniform Code of Military Justice and improve the Department of Defense's response to sex-related offenses through independent investigations. Vanessa's sister said, "I'm fighting for Vanessa as her sister, but I'm also fighting for this as a woman and someone who wanted to sign up for the U.S. Army. I ask everyone who hears about Vanessa's name or hears about any sexual violence in the military or anywhere to endorse the act, because this will keep my sister's legacy alive, and believe me, it will save lives." To learn more about this case and support Vanessa's family, you can search the hashtag #JusticeForVanessa. brings us to the end of tonight's case. Again, another very tragic case of a life ended too early, and the cowardly act by the murderer, Aaron Robinson, to just kill himself. I would much prefer to see him rot in a prison cell for the rest of his natural life, but I guess we have Cecily who can be punished in his place, which is great. The family had worked absolutely tirelessly to spread this case, and it was picked up a lot by celebrities and social media, so I'm guessing that you've probably seen something about this case. There's a viral picture of her in her military outfit, this beautiful young woman, and I guarantee you would have seen her on Instagram, even on TikTok, on Facebook last year. Her case was everywhere. I'm glad that the family have some closure, that they have her body. But of course, this tragic loss of life is something that a family can never really truly get over. I don't think there's much question on what happened in the case. It seems very cut and dry from whatever Cecily said and, the evidence that we have. I would recommend looking up the selfies and stuff that Cecily posted in the days after she mutilated, dismembered and burned and buried Vanessa's body. She's very blasé, and the quotes that she's putting on her pictures are just disgusting. Like, what a stupid bitch. She's like posting selfies, thirst traps, like trying to look cute and stuff, and just these messed up quotes. It seems like she was so desperate to have Aaron Robinson's attention that she would be an accomplice to his crime. There was some other information that she is an estranged wife of another soldier at the Fortwood military base, and that basically her and Aaron were having an affair, and possibly that Vanessa found out about it, and that's why Aaron decided to kill her. However, I lean more to the side that Aaron was stalking her, that he was a little bit obsessed with her, and he killed her for that kind of a reason. With the cases that I cover, I always post a picture on Instagram with different pictures from the case, so I definitely recommend checking out the Instagram. It's just something.dark.podcast, just to see the people in the case and put a face to the name. Also, like I mentioned earlier on in the episode with Weddell Morales, who was another soldier that went missing from Fort Hood and was found, his body was found several miles from the base. That just seemed kind of weird. I know that the base is apparently it's massive, it's one of the biggest military bases in America. So obviously things are going to happen there, but for two people to go missing and then their bodies to be found, and it was only a year difference, Weddell Morales went missing in 2019 and then Vanessa Guillén in 2020. It seems like there's a lot of covering up happening between the soldiers or whatever. And for Aaron Robinson to be able to leave, he was held in his room at Fort Hood whenever the investigation was happening, but he was literally able to leave with a gun, which was his own gun. How is someone who is suspected of a murder allowed to have a gun if they're being held for questioning? I mean, a civilian who's held for questioning in a police station isn't given a weapon. He was able to leave and then obviously cowardly kill himself whenever he was confronted by police. I mean, he's just a piece of shit. This case makes me so upset. Just the way they defiled her body, and it's really unthinkable. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the case and the way that the army handled it and everything like that. You can always get in contact with me through Instagram. My DMs are always open. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, this episode was a listener request. So if you have a case that you would like me to cover on the show, let me know. I always have my Instagram in the show notes. And that brings us to the end of tonight's episode. So just to say a big thank you for listening. Thank you for all the support, and for anyone who's followed me so far on Spotify, a big thank you. It helps my show out a lot and helps me to get recognized. So big thank you. But with that, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you next week.